Can you take care of this for me? Yeah, in case. If it needs to drive anywhere. Okay. So first thing I want to start off with is that the last 2 weeks I have had the most rotten baptism texts for baptisms. I was looking at it, I was like, come on, give me a break. But I wonder if it might work out. So we'll see what we can do. Because today we hear what appears to be one of the most simple and straightforward parables that Jesus tells us, right? For once, we just have two guys hanging out as the main characters. We don't have mustard seeds, we don't have pearls, we don't have yeast, we don't even have sibling rivalry, family dysfunction, or ethnic conflict, which we understand pretty well or not at all. None of that this morning. We just have two guys. So walk me through what happens in this story. So you're always allowed to cheat. You can look at your gospel lesson, Luke 16. What happens to the two men in Jesus' parable? What's the very first thing? All right, what's that, Becca? They both die. All right, but I want to get, so that's very, very important. That's kind of the hinge that makes the story work. But what happens before that? What happens before that? What's the rich guy doing?
He's living a good life.
He's living the good life, right? Living it up. The other guy? He doesn't even get this graft when he gets licked by dogs, which I don't know about anybody else. I do not like to get licked by dogs. All right? And so the rich guy lives an awesome life on earth. Poor guy lives a terrible life on earth. Becca, what happens? They both die. Where does the rich guy go? Hades, Gehenna, hell, that's a whole other conversation, but it's not good. Let's put it that way. So rich guy goes, we're just going to call it hell, he goes to hell. Poor guy goes where? The story seems really simple, right? Kind of frightening, but really simple. We could sum up the story, the moral, as be nice and help people, because if you don't, you will go to hell. Is this really the point? I really hope this is not where we're leaving Rikers Baptist. All right? I mean, when Jesus usually tells us a parable, a story with a point, a story that we are supposed to lay alongside our lives, parallel, to challenge and change us, Jesus' stories tend to rarely be so simple. I mean, if this is the point, shouldn't all of us be living in constant terror that we haven't helped enough poor people? Right? We could never feel safe or secure in our relationship with Jesus. Also, if the story about Lazarus and the rich man really is this simple, shouldn't we all just give away all of our money and stuff and then cut ourselves up and suffer because that'll get us automatically into heaven? So there's got to be something else going on. And I hope that we can all agree that just because somebody has money doesn't mean that they are automatically damned. Likewise, I pray that we can agree that being poor and destitute and suffering a ton are not salvific in and of themselves. So I am left wondering, what on earth are we supposed to take away from this simple story Jesus tells us this morning? And I wonder if the place we should start is for us to be curious and consider why the rich man ends up in Hades and Lazarus ends up with Father Abraham. So I have some questions for us. All right, see if you can help me out. Does it say anything in the parable anywhere about the rich man or Lazarus' faith or religious beliefs? No. Does the story say that the rich man made his money illicitly by cheating people? Does it say that the rich man never did anything nice or helpful to anybody else? Does the story say that Lazarus was a particularly good dude? Or that he was generous or kind with what little he had? No. So unless we are going to assert that if those of us who have extra money, extra food, extra space in our homes, anybody out there? Anybody out there with me on this one? And we neglect to help every person that we come across in need in substantial ways, are we risking eternal damnation? All right, so that's where we would have to go. And unless we are going to say that by being poor and suffering, those are moral and spiritual virtues that make us deserving of heaven, we have to assume that there is something else going on with this story. And I wonder if there is something deeper and darker than just the possessing of money, just the possessing of wealth, and just how we use and spend that wealth. What if one of the possible lessons or messages that Jesus seeks to impart to those who hear the parable of the rich man and Lazarus is to address our attitude towards our money and towards our stuff? For once, I'm not looking for a verbal answer, all right? I just want you to use your inside voices. But I want you to think for a moment how you would describe the rich man's attitude towards his stuff, towards his things, towards his possessions. Think about it just a second. How would you describe his attitude? I don't know about you, but I get a sense of entitlement, of deservedness in the rich man's actions. And you might see this in his extravagance with his clothes, that he dresses himself in the color and the quality of royalty. Or maybe you see it in his self-centered, wasteful feasting every day. All right, that's like saying, should we eat Thanksgiving dinner every day of our life? Or you could see it in having a gate or a wall to keep people out, like Lazarus, from his home and from his stuff. You can see it all those places. But where I see it the most, where I feel like I see that he deserves what he has, is when he's in hell. All right, when he's in hell, he looks up, and not only does he recognize Lazarus, he doesn't say, oh, that was that guy laying there. He knows his name, right? But he still exists he acts like Lazarus exists to serve him. Hey, Abraham, by the way, send Lazarus to dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue. Send Lazarus to serve me. The rich man acts like he deserves fancy things and service. And he acts like Lazarus doesn't deserve these same things. And here is where this parable gets scary and real and convicting for me. Maybe for some of you too. I may not be rich like the guy in our store, but I have certainly, if I'm honest, thought that I deserved what I have. And if I'm continuing with this whole honesty thing, I have had times where I believe that I deserved more than somebody else. How might this sense of deservedness, of entitlement, be destructive to our neighbor, be destructive to ourselves, and be destructive to our relationship with our God? If I believe that I deserve what I have, if I believe that I have earned everything that I have, if I am entitled to what I have, what role does that leave for God? If I deserve what I have, how can I be grateful to God? How can I rely on God? I wonder if this is why Lazarus is in heaven in our story. What is Lazarus able to do for himself? Is he able to feed himself? Is he able to keep the dogs away from him? He can't do anything. He is unable to save himself. Perhaps today's not-so-simple story not so gently reminds us that all that we have and all that we are comes from God. Today we gather for our baptism, which is a concrete reminder of our dependence on our God. Riker isn't all that different from Lazarus, right? Is he able to feed himself yet? Is he able to speak yet? Notice Lazarus doesn't even say anything. Can Riker clean his diaper rash on his own? Baptism is God's free gift of forgiveness, salvation, and presence in Riker's life. Not because Riker deserves these things or has earned these things. They're gifts because God loves Riker so much and God chooses to give them to him. And yet, God does not want these gifts to stay just with Riker. In our promises, we're going to hear in just a moment, parents are going to promise for Riker that he will work for justice in our world to share God's love with others. The same is true for you. The same is true for me. God longs for our gifts, our abilities, our time, our wealth to be shared with all who are in need. And this, my friends, is why we practice open communion, so that anyone can come forward to taste the forgiveness and grace, regardless of church membership, affiliation, age, or understanding. This is why we continue to give 12% of our offering to the larger church, even when we're struggling with our own budget, so that we can continue to feed hungry people, resettle refugees, help with adoptions, give clothes to the needy. This is why you have tended a community garden, despite the community and school not showing up all that much to help out. Why you serve meals and ring bells for the Salvation Army. This is why we serve on church committees, teach Sunday school, chaperone mission trips, cut our grass, and prepare for and clean up from worship, so that everyone might have a place to know that there is a God who loves them and cares about their suffering. We do these things and more out of gratitude for the gifts that our God has first given us. Thanks be to God and amen.